Hello, everyone. Welcome to Doing Virtue,
A Catholic podcast where virtue is what we do.
I am your host, Anthony Criste. I'm joined tonight by my co-hosts, Mark, LaRochelle, and Brian Hicks. First, we are going to do a brief introduction of each one of us and a little bit on our backgrounds, and then we're going to move right into the show and discuss what the goals are for the Doing Virtue podcast. So without further ado, my name is Anthony Criste. I'm 22 years old, and I live here in Front Royal, Virginia. I am the second oldest of 9 children. I have 3 brothers and 5 sisters. My parents both attended Christendom College in the 90s and got married after graduation and settled down here in Virginia, where I grew up. I also attended Christendom College, and I majored in political science, graduating in May of 2022 with a bachelor's degree. And I wrote my senior thesis on the important role that architecture plays within society and why it's crucial for the flourishing of a culture to have well-ordered and beautiful structures. Currently, I am the office manager at a residential construction company here in the Shenandoah Valley, and I enjoy bartending, country music, exploring beautiful churches, and traveling. 1 month ago today, I made one of the greatest decisions of my life and got married to a fabulous young woman named Kathleen Sullivan, now Kathleen Criste. And most recently, I started this podcast called Doing Virtue. Next up, I'd like to introduce one of my best friends and the best man at my wedding, the one, the only, Mark LaRochelle.
Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it. What a nice introduction for me. So as Anthony said, I'm Mark LaRochelle. I am also 22 years old, and I also live in Front Royal, Virginia. And I also graduated from Christendom in May of 2022. I majored in history, where I wrote my thesis on the moral justification of the Valkyrie plot based on Aquinas' just tyrannicide theory. I've played soccer all my life and am now coaching the Christendom men's soccer team this fall. In terms of work, my family has built a total of 5 houses as well as 2 roller coasters, so I'm pretty familiar with wood and building, which is why my current occupation is a cabinet builder for a local construction company. Right now, my hobbies include side work, soccer, podcasting, and then anything else I can fit into that 24-hour day. And now I'd like to introduce Brian Hicks.
Thank you, Mark. I'll just go right into it. I am also living here in Front Royal, Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley. I also graduated from Christendom the same year they did, but I am 25 years old. I did a couple years at a community college in California before I came out here. I am number 5 of 6, so I'm the second youngest. I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. I graduated from Christendom with a theology degree where I wrote my thesis on the role of man in the relationship with God, and also in the relationship with women. So how his relationship with God kind of structures his relationship with women, and how that pans out in life as a Catholic. My hobbies are playing soccer, reading, and podcasting. And actually, same, or not the same with Anthony, but I also got married 2 months ago to my lovely wife, now Sarah Hicks, but Sarah Jackson before. And I am just so happy to be able to have this opportunity to be with these 2 amazing dudes.
Nice.
Thanks, guys. All right, let's introduce the podcast officially. So for me, first I'm going to just explain a little bit of background on why I wanted to start a podcast, and then why I roped both of you into it, and what goals I hope the podcast will achieve. And then I'll open it up to both of you, and you can each take a turn on explaining kind of your point of view and maybe elaborate on points that I already mentioned or bring up new points. So really, I think I can trace it back to kind of the seed in my mind of the podcast was when I attended the abroad program with Christendom College in Rome 2 years back in my junior year. And in Rome, I experienced two main things that kind of got me to a point of wanting to start a podcast. So the first thing was just the extraordinary amount of beauty and sacred art and architecture that was just found all over Italy. And not to mention just the blatant Catholicism that you'd see everywhere in the form of churches, relics, street names, stories about popes and saints. It just that being everywhere really kind of whet my appetite, so to speak, and kind of reinvigorated my faith, because it's so much easier to believe when you have all of that surrounding you constantly, particularly things you've read about or seen pictures of for years, and then you finally get to see it. But the second thing that got me to a point of wanting to start some type of platform to discuss the faith and the virtuous life and manhood and just different things that are very applicable in this day and age was the discussions that we had as students with our professors, but more specifically with other students in Rome, while traveling, or a lot of times it was when we'd have cocktail parties at our houses or have wine tastings, and that allowed this really specific and unique avenue that I'd never experienced before of being able to bond with people who you really maybe didn't have that much in common with, except your faith or except that you shared a few classes together. But the idea that most of us could just put our phones away and share a drink and talk about something in class, or this historic church or work of art that we had seen, the Sistine Chapel or the Pietà or something, and being able to discuss that and grow in friendship with those people, and also grow in wisdom about the Catholic faith and about sacred art and architecture seen particularly in Rome, that want to keep pursuing that wisdom and pursuing those friendships was kind of a driving factor, and it began there, but it never really went away. And when we got back to campus, I still wanted that, and I really was too busy to initiate anything other than just my normal class schedule and all of the different extracurricular things that I was involved in. But it ultimately caused a group of seniors to start joking about starting a podcast because I mentioned it so much, and other people mentioned it. It wasn't just me, but then after graduating, I thought I would have more time, but I really didn't. And I just began working and fitting into the non-academic life, and I realized how much I started listening to Pints with Aquinas and how well Matt Fradd interviews people on such varying levels of the background and belief. Usually they're Catholic, but maybe they converted, or they had a wild background before they got to that point. And the way that he can open up conversation and ask really interesting questions and make a 4 or 5 hour podcast engaging was just kind of mind blowing to me. And it's something that I wanted to get better at. And perhaps more specifically was the Catholic Man Show that I started listening to probably 2 years ago. And I was just amazed at how incredibly insightful and how consistently they brought up Christ without shirking away from that, which is something that I didn't really expect from two guys. It's called the Catholic Man Show, but I just thought it would be about maybe just articles of faith or the different theological issues, but I didn't think that they would bring up Christ's name or whatever quite as much as they did, and they just embrace it so fully. And probably the biggest draw was how consistently they focused their conversation on topics of authentic manhood or what masculinity should look like. And so it started making me think that that a show that could perhaps encapsulate both, or at least attempt to encapsulate both, would be not only really fun to pursue and actually do, but a worthy endeavor to actually start. So after a lot of prayer and ultimately just a lot of delays, we decided to launch the Doing Virtue podcast with the goal of learning how to reclaim authentic conversations about virtue and manhood and how to live the good life. Really because the easiest way to pursue a good life and a life of flourishment is through a community and through perhaps even just brotherhood, a brotherhood who wants to pursue the same things, men who want to pursue virtue and holiness and honor the family and are passionate about their faith and are passionate about their relationship with God. And so I figured a podcast would perhaps be an ideal way to be able to continue those conversations, but also make it available to people who don't have time or don't have the resources to do that. And so this podcast will be focusing on how to live life in accordance with virtue, but also specifically emphasizing what Catholic manhood should look like in the 21st century. And we hope to bring our own personal experiences and wisdom to the table, but also bring on guests who perhaps can enlighten us much more. And so we look forward to doing that, and we look forward to the good things that are to come. And now I'd like to pass the mic over to Mark and just have him explain a little bit of what doing virtue means to him and what he hopes to achieve by being recorded constantly. Mark, take it away.
I'm going to take a much more selfish view in terms of I'm doing this so that I can hang out with two really solid dudes, and that's it. Anyway, so Brian, what do you... No, I'm kidding. I think that with work, and I've said this before, with everyone just has work, has so many things going on all the time, it's so difficult to have good conversations because you're always moving, you're always you always have plans, and you're never really sitting down to have a conversation with anyone other than maybe who you're dating or your spouse or whatnot. But in terms of just sitting down with a bunch of guys who have similar values as you and being able to have a solid conversation about virtue, about the good life, about about sin, about anything that you can put your mind to, we've kind of lost that after school has ended, just because we're all not together anymore. We're all not taking the same classes, and so I think from the selfish point of view, it's a good opportunity for me to be able to force myself to have these conversations and to learn and grow with you two. I think that with our background of Christendom graduates, we have sort of something that a minority of people have in terms of our formation and in terms of what the knowledge of the faith that we have. So I think we have a really good opportunity to push ourselves in terms of the conversation that we can have about virtue, about living our best life. But also for anyone who listens, they also could sort of hear what we have to say and maybe learn from it. So I think that's what I have.
Well, I guess my point of view of this is very much a part of what you guys have said. Realistically, to be able to have this structure, to be able to spend time with two great guys that I like having conversations with, and again, because we do have these foundational values in common, being able to have the structure to be able to talk about those things, about certain things that maybe we would like to know more about, or we know professors or we know people around that have written about certain things, and then we can go talk with them ourselves, but with their school going on, with just our work, with just everybody's lives kind of to a certain extent getting in the way of being able to have conversation and have good conversation with people. This definitely gives us the platform to be able to have those. And yeah, I do think with one thing my parents have said, especially my dad, because I'm the only one to go to Christendom out of my family and go to a Catholic university or Catholic college. He has seen the growth in me, but also the growth in the people that he's come out and met, or just not the growth in them, but just really where they are and where their values lie and everything that pertains to the Catholic faith, that he has said before that we do have a lot to offer. And so if having these conversations with these either great professors or just great people around us, if we're able to have those good conversations, and then God willing, it will benefit other people too, not only benefit us. But then also just being able to, something that Anthony said with the Catholic Man Show and with Pints of Aquinas, all three of those hosts, two in the Catholic Man Show and Matt Fradd and the Pints of Aquinas, have such an ability to be able to speak so clearly about things, even in times when they won't, there are times that they don't, and other things like that. But this is kind of a selfish thing, but being able to be able to speak clearly about our faith and about particular things that really mean something to our faith and to us, this gives us a great opportunity to do so. And so, yeah, God willing, this will benefit us and benefit those around us. And if it doesn't, then it just gives us an opportunity to be able to talk to each other until then.
All right. Thanks, guys. Before we close, I'd like to just bring up three areas that we plan on covering. This is kind of beyond the scope of just talking about the virtuous good life and authentic manhood and what those things mean. This is it's a little bit more specific, but it's just kind of three areas of discussion that will probably be mainly focusing on. The first one, I think, would be prayer. What prayer means, how prayer is incorporated into the spiritual life, and that encompasses a lot of different things. The next thing would be work. So that, again, encompasses a lot of different things. What work is, how to work well, how to endure suffering with work. And then the last thing would be leisure. What leisure means, how leisure is different from work, how to rest well, what resting really means. So part of the focus of the show that we're going to do at the beginning of every show, ideally, will be to open a drink, probably a whiskey of some sort, but it could be a mixed drink or a beer or wine or something. And just to talk about it briefly, it won't take very much time, but just to talk about the tasting notes, whether we enjoy it or not, just a few little things to discuss, just to get things going on the show. It acts as a bit of an icebreaker, number one. And number two, it gives us an opportunity to enjoy the good things that God has given us, and to obviously always drink with moderation, and to not let that be the highlight of the show, but it does serve a purpose, I think. So that'll be the first thing. The next thing we'll do is we're going to get things rolling before we jump into the interview or the main topic of the night. We're going to talk about a quick interesting fact or historical occurrence of that day, or the saint of the day, or maybe just a personal story or an article that one of us read. So we'll all kind of switch off, taking turns presenting that quickly. And then lastly, we'll get into the topic of the evening or kick things off with our guest, whoever that might be. So those are that's just a quick guideline about what's going to be going on in the show. So we invite you to go ahead and grab a glass and pour yourself a big dram of whiskey and come join us on the show. This is Doing Virtue.
A Catholic podcast.
Or virtue is what we do.
Cheers.